It's a very good morning to the Gelding and Gelding. We're off to Flemington today. The weather seems to be improving, although I noticed that the track's rated a soft 7, so it must have copped a little bit of rain during the week.
Yes, good morning, professors. Morning, listeners. Bit of rain around last night, Professor. And yesterday afternoon, I suppose, when that cold snap seemed to hit Melbourne about, 1:30, 2 o'clock yesterday, where the temperature just plummeted 4 or 5 degrees and a bit of rain around. So, yeah, look, blue skies out where I am at the moment, Professor. Hopefully, the Flemington track has fantastic recuperative powers. So hopefully, I'm working on a bit better than a soft 7, but was surprised when it came up a soft 7 in view of their lack of racing there in the last month or so, Professor.
Yes, Gelding. All right, so it's a 10-race card. The first race is at a very early Gelding, 11:35 a.m, and we were talking about that in the warm-up, that you're going to have to be on your bike to get some of our investments on.
Yes, as the listeners will find out later in the program, and all of a sudden, Professor, to get the parlays on, you said it's an early task to get to the TAB very quickly.
Yes, and a very early finish at Flemington Gelding, 4:43.
Yeah, 4:43.
You'd be home before dark.
Well, good, yes. And I would have thought with 10 races, so if they had gone back to 9 or 8 races, Professor, a 12:30 start and a 5 o'clock finish would have been something like the old days, wouldn't it?
It would, Gelding, and we wouldn't have had to be racing around. The feature race, race 8, the Andrew Ramsden, it's a listed race for 3-year-olds and above with set weights over 2,800 metres. As I said, Gelding, the track's a soft 7, the rail's out 4 metres. And one thing I'll just mention before we go to the tips, Gelding, is that New South Wales has fallen for the 3-card trick again for the third week in a row. No metropolitan meeting. Today they're racing at Scone.
Or Scone?
Well, no, as the giraffe would say, Scone.
Okay,
but for us in Victoria, it's Scone.
Yeah, and we'll be going with the strawberry jam and the whipped cream, will we?
Oh, I love it, Gelding. I love it.
Beautiful.
Love it. All right, Gelding, what's your 2 best bets for today's racing?
Oh, Professor, I'm going a bit later in the day. I like the main race, the Lexus Andrew Ramsden over 2,800 metres. And, of course, the winner of this gets a guaranteed starting position in the Melbourne Cup, if they so desire, Professor. So this is one of the golden ticket races, worth $500,000, but the chance of a lifetime, you would say, to have if you win this race, you know, when your horse is right, this gets you a run in the Melbourne Cup. Something hopefully we could do, Professor, maybe in a couple of years. Hopefully our horse can run in a race like this and get that golden ticket for us to be there on the first Tuesday in November, hey? How would that be?
Oh, not going to complain about anything like that, Gelding, that's for sure.
Beautiful. So, look, I like race 8, horse 12, the Map. This is a South Australian 5-year-old mare. It comes over after winning during the carnival over in Adelaide. It won a Group 3 race over 2,500 by 3.8 lengths, Professor. Ridden by Damian Lane. This horse just showed fantastic turn of foot and just raced right away from them in this Group 3 race, dropping back in class to a listed race. Jamie Carr rode it over in Adelaide, but of course she's up in Queensland today. So I don't think we lose anything with Damian Lane being aboard, Professor. This horse, 5-year-old, 27 starts, 8 wins, $500,000 in the bank. In form, I think it could be a very, very good bet today. So my first bet is race 8, horse 12, the Map. Excuse me, Professor.
So, Gelding, I've just got one question for you. So you're expecting Damien Lane to at least ride a treble today?
I think Damien Lane could have a very, very good day, Professor.
Oh, I'm happy with that.
I think he might even get a bit more than 3. Well, hopeful at least 3.
Hopefully at least 3.
But maybe looking for a 4 out of 10 kind of winning day from Damien Lane. So
it'll be a very good day for him.
Certainly, probably the form jockey. Well, he's the leading jockey at the moment. And Blake Shin, Michael D, Zara, and Jamie Carr are all riding interstate. So, hopefully should go very, very well. My second bet, Professor, is in the last race 10. A horse we've backed on a few occasions. Number 1, She's All Shenanigans, trained by Simon Zara, and to be ridden by R. Houston, the apprentice. Originally allocated 59 kgs, but with the apprentice allowance, Professor comes in with 56 kg. Maybe drawn the right side of the track, drawn barrier 13, so drawn out. That may suit down the Flemington straight, 1100. The horse has had 13 starts for 4 wins and just shy of $1 million, Professor. So I like it. It's had 3 starts at the track for 1 win. At the distance has had, which I think is very important, to have won up the straight. So that's something that I like. Over the distance, 7 starts for 2 wins and a second. But what I was impressed with was its second last time at Caulfield. Professor, just beaten by 0.8 of a length, was coming home. So hopefully a drop in weight, only carrying 56 kilos. I like race 10, number 1, She's All Shenanigans. And you like, Professor?
Yeah, I'm going very early, Gelding. Race 1.
Very early.
Very early. Race 1, the Sir Eugene Gorman Handicap. A race for 2-year-olds. Open class gelding over 1,400 metres. I like in this race, horse number 3, Narbold, coming out of barrier 10. It's only had the 2 starts, gelding, for 2 placings, so it hasn't got a win rating, but 100% place rating. It's down in class. The last start was a second at Flemington. The current favourite, number 10, Sneaky Sunrise, gelding, it beat it home by 1.5 lengths. So It hit the line strongly. I like the combination of Damien Lane and Chris Waller. We've spoken about how Chris Waller selects his races, especially down here in Melbourne. Damien Lane, you said, was the form jockey. You're certainly right, Gelding. 14% win rate over his career, 16% over the last 50. Let me tell you about Chris Waller, Gelding. 13% win rate over his career. Over his last 50 races, Gelding, he's going at 26%. So he's 100% over his career win rating.
Every one in 4, he done?
Every 1 in 4 horses he saddles up at the moment, Gelding's getting past the line first. That's
not a bad little rate, is it, Professor?
I like this, especially for the each way betters, Gelding. $4.80 you can get at the moment, and $1.80. So let's face it, they're nice, very nice sort of each way odds that a soft landing if we're not successful with the win.
I like it, Professor. Can you tell me much about the man the race is named after?
Yes, I can, Gelding. He was a solicitor and then a barrister.
Okay.
He fought in World War One.
Yes.
And came back and had a very successful legal career. In fact, he took silk in 1927, Gelding.
Okay, that's very good.
Did you know? Did you realise I read this before I started the show today? Because I wasn't going to use it. I decided, oh no, look, we'll get on with it. I read up about Sir Eugene Gorman.
Did he hit the bench?
No, I don't think he did. He retired, but he did appear in a couple of matters after retired. He kept chambers at Equity Chambers, mind you, Gelding.
Equity Chambers.
Equity Chambers, yes.
At Lonsdale Street, Professor.
I think that was roundabouts, and not only that, he was also appointed after he retired as counsel. He was appointed as officer in charge of the Dried Fruits Board.
Oh, what's the dried fruit spawn?
Yes.
Is that still in existence?
I don't think so, Gelding.
Was he a racing administrator?
I couldn't find anything anything about him that was pointed to racing. That was the reason I looked. I thought, oh, that's a classy first race horse, first race name. I thought he must have some connection with horse racing, but I couldn't find one.
I'd imagine there was. It seems a name synonymous, with racing, and to be named after that. And it's just an interesting name, Sir Jean Gorman. No things about handicap or stakes or anything like that. It's just Sir Eugene Gorman.
Yeah. So Gelding. So the nod to you just shows you the ESP between you and I. That you asked the Dorothy next question, you didn't even know that I'd looked at it.
Geez, I was hoping I'd be able to stump you. Was working on it, Professor. A question without notice, but not.
Yeah, well, if you ask me the next one, Gelding, I won't know the answer.
I was going to ask you who Murray Cox.
I wouldn't have a clue. You asked the right question at the right time, Gelding.
It's a beautiful thing, Professor.
Oh, and we can honestly say to the viewers, there was no collusion there. You did not have any clue that I'd looked at that this morning.
Oh, look, it was a setup, Professor. I was hoping to catch you out.
Oh, and another thing, Gelding, he rose to the rank of brigadier. He actually also participated in World War II. So he participated in both World Wars, rose to the high rank of brigadier in the army.
Okay. Well, may have been after that very famous man, Sir John Monash. Oh. Or maybe Sir John Monash may have been just 10 years in front of him. Do you think?
Could well have been, Gelding.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. So my second selection, Gelding, race 2, the Murray Cox handicap. I don't know anything about Murray Cox. I can tell you that now. Save the question.
Okay.
Benchmark 84, race over 1,800 metres. I like in this one, Gelding, horse number 11, Merzan, coming out of barrier 4. It's had 6 starts for 2 wins and 4 placings. So very handy, 33% win rate, 100% place rate. It's up in class. But it has raced at Class 2 in France, Gelding, and Class 2 is usually rated between 86 and 110, so it's got the runners in this field covered.
You would think so and hope so.
Yes. Its last start, Gelding, it was beaten by horse number 5 in this race, Cadmus, but it meets Cadmus 5 kilos better off, carrying 6.5 kilos less than the last start. I think it's a better horse anyway, and at $3.20 and $1.60, and the Damien Lane, Chris Waller duo again, I think that's too good a bet to miss. So my 2 for today, race 1, horse number 3, Narbold, into race 2, number 11, Merzan, and both of those rides by Damien Lane. So if the map is to get up, Gelding, D Lane has to ride at least a treble.
Well, we're happy with that, Professor. And as I said to you before the show, Merzan was my 3rd pick in the thing, so it'll be getting a little bit of the Gelding's money today. So we'll be going along, and the juicy odds around about the $3 mark.
Very nice.
So very nicely indeed. So yeah, hopefully Waller Lane can have a very successful day.
We hope so, Gelding. All right, let's turn to the Professor's parlay. Unsuccessful again last week, unfortunately. Last week we went for the horse league Amelia's Jewel, was beaten home by the Jamie Carr-ridden Benedetta. Amelia's Jewel 12th, 3.5 lengths off the pace. What did you think of the run?
A bit disappointing, Professor. One of our favourite top horses that just, after running second in the Quokka, excuse me, Professor, was given every chance by Damien Lane, was running up there, but just tired over the last 50 metres when the charge came from Bernadetta and other horses down the centre of the track. Stretton Angel ran second in the race. Look, we've backed Stretton Angel and Bernadetta before, Professor, but I would have put Amelia's Jewel in a class above them, but certainly wasn't to be last Saturday.
So it didn't turn out on the day, did it? The other legs, Gelding, Gold Coast beat North Melbourne, Collingwood beat West Coast, so we got 2 out of the 3. The parlay down to 56% now. So it's slowly going down, but we're back in the saddle today, Gelding. We'll get that rating back up there.
Professor, I keep on saying to you, anything over 30% just on horse picking is good tipping. So if we're going 56%, we're almost double that on tipping. So, and then to add the sports bet to it as well is just going fantastic. So, well, as you said, it's dropping, and I know you have high expectations of the parlay, but
I think we're going to win every week, Gelding.
We are still batting at a very, very good average.
All right, Gelding. So this week, the agreed bet of the day between you and I is at Doomben, race 8, number 1. I wish I win. Perhaps you'll explain to the viewers why we've gone for that as the bet of the day.
Professor, as we always say, we look to try to pick a winner anywhere in Australia to start off the parlay. Again, we look at the horses. They're probably a bit shorter, but we try to look for the class type of horse, Professor. And, this is a Group 1 race. We like to have a bet in the Group 1 races. I wish I win. Trained by Moody and Kath Coleman, to be ridden by Jane McDonald, who the viewers are probably sick of us saying James McDonald, the best jockey in Australia. Australasia. We'll be going to Hong Kong, I think, on Sunday. I wish I wins had 19 starts for 6 wins, 6 seconds. Last start was a good run behind Chain of Lightning in the Group 1. TJ Smith running third, beaten a short neck by a short half head. This is Sydney's best sprint race, a Group 1 race. So again, we're looking for a winner. We think this is the way to be. And at the moment, it's, flip of the odds. You can get a bit over $2. And I would suggest that our listeners have a little bit on that, and hopefully starts off another successful Professor's parlay.
Well, very nice, Gelding. And currently showing $2.10 fixed. In your opinion, and I'll give you the nod on this one. If the viewers can get $2.10 now, should they take it, or should they wait a little bit later?
I'll be taking it as soon as we get off the phone, Professor.
All right, Gelding. Let's parlay that into Essendon to beat North Melbourne. Essendon third on the ladder at the moment, 6 wins, 2 losses and a draw. I think it might be fool's gold for the Essendon supporters at the moment. I don't think they'll finish as high as third. The reason I say that is because their percentage is under 100%, which means the against is greater than the for, and that's never a good thing, especially if you're third, Gelding. Usually, if you're third on the ladder, you've got a percentage of about 120, 130.
Well,
so I think it might all come crashing down for Essendon in the end, but I don't think it'll be today because they play the 18th place North Melbourne, haven't won a game yet this season. They've got the worst defence in the league. They're currently allowing in 120.5 points average per game, and you're not going to win many games. In fact, you're not going to win a game of AFL if you're allowing that many points in a match, Gelding, and they do that every time they run onto the field. The bookies don't like it either. The line's 48.5, so it's more than 8 goals. At $1.05, I think that's a pretty safe bet, and we'll parlay that into, unfortunately, Gelding, I've got to go for Brisbane to beat your Tigers.
Good common sense, Professor.
Richmond and North Melbourne vying for the. Now, let me ask you this, Gelding. Richmond's only win for the season. Who did they beat?
Aside sitting 2 games clear on top of the ladder in Sydney, Professor, and was lucky enough to be there for it.
Can you explain that form for me, Gelding?
Well, if I was a Stewart, Professor, I'd be calling Sydney in and querying their performance that day.
Yeah.
But Richmond, they had a very, very good crack against them, and maybe Sydney were off a bit. And how could I say it? And I'm sure Richmond have been successful and it's been fantastic, and we've had a fantastic era and no one's more proud than mine. They just didn't seem to have the same intensity last week as they did against Sydney, Professor. I know that's not a good thing to say, but and I'm sure they're all trying as hard as they can, Professor. But it's just an observation looking at the thing that you look and you just say, well, some great players are probably reaching the end of their careers and probably aren't as highly rated as they may have been 3 and 4 years ago, Professor. So I think I might have, and they have got a injury list, but there seems to be a lot of people jumping ship, doesn't there, Professor, from Richmond?
There does, Gelding. You've lost the CEO. He's gone.
The CEO's gone. Jack Rewald took the job there pretty quickly. Damien moved, seemed to jump off last year. There's constant talk about Dusty Martin and Daniel Rewald and Gold Coast Sun. So normally where there's smoke, there's a bit of fire, Professor. So anyway, it may be a rebuilding time for Richmond.
Yeah, Gelding. Look, the Lions playing at home. Unlike Essendon, Brisbane, who are 13th, have a percentage over 100%. So although they've lost 5 games, they've been in every game. So the bookies have got this at 47.5, and that's probably not far off. Average points for Richmond have got the worst offense in the league, only scoring 64 points a game, Gelding. And I think we said a couple of weeks ago that not many games of AFL are won only scoring 10 goals.
Exactly, Professor.
So I like Brisbane at $1.04. The win parlay is currently showing 2-1 Gelding. The place parlay is currently showing 3-2. So all in all, should be a good day, we hope. Let's hope for 4 winners and a parlay. What more could we hope for?
Exactly, Professor. And it'd be good to jump on board on another parlay and put that up to around about the 60% mark. Hopefully, it'll be good to do that. And Professor, looking forward to next week, are you? You doing it solo or?
Yes, Gelding, yes. I was just about to mention that you're chasing the sun and having a well-earned break again.
Cheeky.
Oh, it's a good life, Gelding, and I'm only envious. So you enjoy your time in the sun. I'll do Sportsfan radios. That's racing next week. No doubt you'll semaphore me your tips, and I'll try and give as good and as erudite summary as you can, but I can't promise that. But so it'll be me on my own next week for That's Racing.
And Professor, during the week, a bit of good news for us. Did you think?
Well, yes, Gelding, I did. Seemed to be very high expectation. I thought.
Yes, maybe you can fill the listeners in.
Well, we might be getting a start as a 2-year-old.
As our horse, so we may be off to the GGs in a couple of weeks, Professor.
Well, lucky it wasn't this week lucky it wasn't next week because you wouldn't be able to go.
Yeah.
That'd be just the luck, Gelding. And while we're on
I might have taken an earlier flight back, Professor. A couple of days.
Gelding, tell me this. What's happening with your horse that has been having a spell?
Oh, well, it had a race on Wednesday.
Oh,
up in Queensland. Yeah, so.
Oh, it went all the way up to Queensland.
Yes, it's now currently abiding in Queensland and raced over an unsuitable 1,200 metres.
Unsuitable.
Finished 10th, Professor. As I said, a bit worried about the tactics employed on it. Look, probably couldn't do too much. It was drawn 16. So what do you do when it's drawn 16 in a 1,200 metre race?
Oh, drop back.
You drop back and sit last. Coming down the back straight, you can be 12 lengths off them. And then you run on and pass a few at the end. So, look, an unsuitable type of distance, bad barrier draw.
So for the viewers who don't know, the name of the horse is Drop the Mic.
Drop the Mic. So maybe
when's it racing again?
Well, hopefully in a fortnight's time, Professor, or something.
In Queensland?
In Queensland, up
nice. Oh, the
maybe
horse
over
the horse has gone on a holiday too, Gelding.
Oh well, Professor.
I hope it likes the good weather up there.
Yes, that's the reason it's up there, Professor. But the tracks have been a bit heavy, and look, the Drop the Mic's been a fantastic horse for us. It's a rising 7-year-old coming up to a rising 8-year-old, Professor. So I would not like to see it, but I think it might have had its time, and I'm certainly looking forward to Savvy Rocker moving on, and hopefully Savvy Rocker wins the same amount of prize money as Drop the Mic. We'd be happy with that, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I'd be happier if it won more.
Oh, it'd be, hopefully.
All right, Gelding, that's all for us today. So until next week, and that's racing, it's good luck.
And good punting.